You got bookmarks as well.
I do yes. Making sure all over is I remember today.
No. Whoops, what's going on? Sorry. We got kicked off YouTube last night because we played clips of movies. So we've betrayed copyright. Let's see if where'd it go? Oh. Okay. So welcome everyone to this afternoon of poetry with Ruben Quesada, Emanuel Xavier somewhere. They're hiding. Rosebud, Ben-Oni, and Beatty. My name is Greg Newton. I am the co-founder, along with my lovely partner, Donnie Jokum, of the Bureau of General Services Queer Division. The Bureau is an all-volunteer independent queer bookstore that we founded in 2012, and that has been here at the LGBT Community Center since 2014. And as an all-volunteer bookstore, we rely on sales and donations to keep this party going. So I'm going to pass a bag around. If you're able to give some money, we'd appreciate it. We also, of course, encourage you to buy our poets' books. So if you'd rather support us by buying books, that's wonderful. But if you know you won't be buying books, we ask you to please throw something in the bag if you're able to, or you can scan the QR code and give to us on Venmo. And for those of you watching online, you can give on Venmo at BGSQD. I'll pass that around. And if you're not already on our email list, you can sign up for that at the back of the room or on our website, bgsqd.com. And you'll get an email every other Monday about our many upcoming events. Our regular business hours are Wednesdays through Sundays from 1 to 7 p.m. And then we often stay open later if we have an event that night. So before we get started, I wanted to read a land acknowledgement and a statement of solidarity with the people of Palestine. So the Bureau acknowledges that our organization operates on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape. We encourage you to join the Bureau in signing up to make a monthly donation to the American Indian Community Houses Mannahatta Fund. The Mannahatta Fund, according to its website, is an invitation to all settlers and non-native people who wish to acknowledge the legacy of theft and genocide that comprise the history of New York City and the United States. And you can find out more at mannahattafund.org. I'd also like to read a statement of solidarity with the people of Palestine. As queer people, we know the pain of being cast out. We have been and continue to be despised by many, even by our own parents, families, and communities of origin. This reality evokes in many of us a deep empathy with others who are likewise seen not as fully human, but as problems to be solved, questions for which the answer is ultimately elimination and erasure. As we watch the ongoing genocide of Palestinians by the State of Israel, carried out with the full support of our government and funded by our tax dollars, we witness the inevitable results of defining a people solely as a threat to the safety and well-being of those deemed inherently worthy of life. This horror compels us to speak out, not only against the current bombardment and siege of Gaza by the State of Israel, but against the historical and ongoing violent displacement of Palestinians by Zionists and the conditions of occupation and apartheid under which Palestinians have been living for over 75 years. In our longing for a very different reality, we take inspiration from the words of Jose Esteban Munoz, who wrote, "Queerness is essentially about the rejection of a here and now and an insistence on potentiality or concrete possibility for another world." And that is from Munoz's Cruising Utopia, which was published in 2009, and a book that I always recommend to people. So let's get started. Our first reader is Rosebud Ben-Oni, who is the author of several collections of poetry, including If This Is the Age We End Discovery from 2021, which won the Alice James Award and was a finalist for the National Jewish Book Award. Paramount commissioned her video essay, My Judaism is a Wild Unplace, for a national media campaign for Jewish Heritage Month, and her poem, Poet Wrestling with Angels in the Dark, was commissioned by the National September 11th Memorial. Please give her a very warm welcome. It was indeed.
Sorry, Ruben. Okay. I was not expecting to do this. I'm so sorry. So I just got off a plane, so I'm a little tired. So I'm going to start off with some new poems. I will begin one that was inspired by a clip one of my cousins sent me. I've never seen the Real Housewives franchises like in full. I've never seen a full episode, but as someone who struggles with vision problems, I often use voice memo. I'm sure I've sent you many typos to talk to my friends and family. And my cousin took it upon himself to say, hey, this really reminds me of you. And in the clip, I will never forget this as long as I live, there's Bethany Frankel. We all know who she is. She's sitting on the bed, and then one of her friends, another one of the housewives, has just found out her husband cheated on her. And she goes, oh no, he cheated on me. And I would like confront him, or I would like call him at least. Instead, she sends a voice memo, and she literally says this, how could you do this to me? Question mark. So naturally, I thought of matter, antimatter symmetry. I have a background in physics and chemistry. And so I grew up mixed. I am ethnically, I guess you could say, Jewish on my father's side. My mother is Mexican. She's Catholic. She converted from Catholicism to Judaism. But I've always had those two worlds colliding. And actually, if any of the Gomez family is watching this, hello. But they've really tried to toughen me up because, as you see, I'm not very tall. I'm a little thing. So I had this nickname growing up, Mataros, which was supposed to be already like the tougher side of me. But as I've been exploring concepts in antimatter, antimatteros appears, right? So basically, antimatter and matter, when they collide, they explode. And at the beginning of the universe, did you come for a physics lecture? Anyway, at the beginning of the universe, they collided. And for some reason, matter won, antimatter didn't. We don't know why. So thank you, Bethany Frankel. How could you do this to me? Question mark. Oh, anti-one, how could you, so raw, unrefined, such a waste of crime? So much consequence for so little time on each petal. What gives you the right? How could you ripen my blood, running cold, so cold, scouring the quantum rhyme? Too little payoff. It wasn't me. It was you whose art choked, whose hands wilding with thistle. How could you lead so many millennia ago? Got me through one blow. It's just one more touch and all explodes. No matter the birthday winner. Could have been a real girl dinner. Staying up late, sports and beer and pong and plates. An opposite charge, OX, XO. Only here I mourn alone. Here I one time to move on. How could you? They say there's still traces, faint feline haze of you, antimatteros. In the known cosmos, where are you, anti-girl, anti-interrupted? Enough with anti-positrons and greener stuff. There's so much more to and of us. Am I not like a cat with choices who outwitted a flask of poisons? No more meddling, no more paradox, no boxes, all my timelines, all the outliers jumping shark, are we not? Question mark? Make it a dozen, a whole biodegradable smorgasbord of lives, humongous and anti-massive. Oh, Cheshire eyes, oh, in which to gaze, for I am also the observer. My choice, yes, my choice is not to degrade. So how could you say too many years to hear it different, too much seized and slashed open? It's actually me who first gave in, who let you go out in mystery. Without time stamp, my perfect twin, somewhere among super heavy neutrinos. We're getting wasted at the front of the bar. How could you? No, Mark, and do this to me at the front of the bar. If I am the cat, you are. The one saber-toothed and raised by huskies, whom in turn were adopted by an anti-gaggle. Damn geese anywhere will adopt anything, my little feigned unextinct gosling. They come at us. Goose initiation. A standard model celebration of physics beyond, somewhere in a secret pocket of quantum cattery. You remain omniscient rarity, the real, unsaid and redone. And babe, I'm the anti-one. How could you not question this is impossible, and I won't promise not. It's truth, it's testable, it's theory, not unlike hope without tethers. The mark is just slower, and its catwalk is down. An anti-hound with feathers. So there's a poet, Amanda Quaid, who came up with this wonderful project about writing about the permanent collection at the Met Museum. Sorry, there's so many things in my head right now. So I love Christopher Geist. I don't know if he did like Best in Show, he did Waiting for Guffman. And I just recently found out like that he's royalty, like he's related to the royal family. And so there's this painting I've always been very curious about. It's by Giorgio de Curcio. It's called The Jewish Angel. And Giorgio was not Jewish, he was Greek and Italian. And he was kind of obsessed with Jewish people. He had like several Jewish wives, and he always said that he was in his Jewish way. And I don't know, I just found that kind of fascinating. I think if he were alive today, Christopher Geist would have made a movie about him. So I wrote this poem about Christopher Geist, me, and Giorgio in a room together. Not that. Okay. Just creating art. Well, not that. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, so yeah. This poem just came out yesterday. It's a little weird. Quirky St. Clair, do not rope me into your mysterious affairs. Somewhere in the long shot lurks portraits of our fathers, eyes mostly. We geist ourselves, trying to measure by catching them when they aren't looking. Best luck with that. Better I'm fresher off the destroyer and stoking fire at noses. I do so much work and it serves you well, but oh, Chris meet Giorgio, extreme closer, who had Jewish predilections. Choice punctuation keeps things friendly, makes the magician and not the fire trick the main mechanism. Like pulling hats and oh, hi, Rabbi, in juxtaposition and uh-oh, here goes Giorgio. Jewish hour, Jewish wife, diaspora as off Broadway. What a feat of exact engineering, with literal math just thrown in an ensemble misfit continuity. And perhaps the reason some feel our absurdities, our conversations in monologue, especially the unspeakable ones. Sacrificial maculore, like queens at the dairy, same scary affair. Go off book for Pomeranian power ballads on Purim, party time, ex-celibate. Aren't we the ultimate Geiger in our homes? Best guest in show, better royalties. It's Lord Hayden Geist, and Giorgio's mother was a baroness. So I'll bind boys, you blindfold. I pit the despair of counts, and I'm not cooking either of you breakfast. No, not even coffee. Not even when you're mostly dead. Not to 50. I like the moxie speed of montage in which crude curves lurk the secret to whom. Such sticky 6 fingers. Plethora peeling denouement denouing credentials? Ingredients for a real bridal princess. Analogy of spice on a death rack. Whack. I've had a spinal tap. True story. And it was not a mysterious affair, but for only lumbar consideration. I'm still here because of what we do, and what we do is best described as you just have to be there. Tingle the surreal levees in Stevie and Rosebud Motel and White Lotus luxury. How could they imagine Tanya-esque extravaganza after all without us? This is making me weepy. Heal predilections, an illicit prediction. Tomorrow, same as yesterday, turning our face to a mighty wind. All my life, I did not sit and wait for gruff men. All my life, I never stopped foretelling. Still out there, isn't it? Open arms, heart guard, now making a run up into another's arms. Let's live or not live forever, and still find things to disqualify for. Never end on a pre-proposition or a portrait of another who wanted you to be something new. Let's not search for who killed whose father. Award no season a king's ransom. Keep it simple. You bring the lunch pail, and you the remains of the day. And I'll tally the hours of bathwater we did not throw away. I'll put on the poem from the book because my agent's always like, you don't read from the book anymore. And I'm like, because I'm working on a new one, you should be happy. She's like, oh, I'm happy. Anyway, I'll read the opening poem. I'm just not watching this. So the poem opens with a question posed in the book. It's many things. In 2012, I started to have the first signs of MS, which I didn't know I had then. And it has been a journey to get a diagnosis. Anyone that knows someone with it or with ALS, it is a journey. And part of the test, including that wonderful spinal tap, is that you go through a lot of blood tests and just a lot of tests in general. And when I would go in for these tests, because I ended up seeing a specialist, I would get the same nurse. She'd fit me in the same room, in the same chair. She'd say the same thing. She'd give me the good cookie after the blood test because she always made the same distinction. This is for everyone else. This is for you. I found out later she said that to everyone. But I started at this time too to feel the falling of frameworks in my life. I'd always been a very observant diasporic Jew. Even with my mixed heritage, I'm like, well, I'm an origin. But I started to lose faith in a lot of things. And she says, well, why don't you just go write a poem about it? So I did. Well, she didn't say it like that. But I came to the conclusion, and it's growing ever more stronger in my life, is that we're living in a simulation, but that doesn't mean life isn't worth it. It is. Poet wrestling with the possibility she's living in a simulation. And thank you again to everyone for coming, to the Bureau, to Ruben, to Jan, to Emanuel. So thank you so much. I can't see very well, so I'm just pointing down. I don't know why I'm looking down, I can't see. Poet wrestling with the possibility she's living in a simulation. All my timelines lead to this poem. Proof what brought us here is all the same horse. So I have some questions. Which of us are the shallow wood? What if blood is emptiness? I suspect my own veins are rogue simulations flitting with a new kind of heightened self-awareness. Proof, the nurse says they are flighty and hard to find. Drink more water, she sings, pushing her own tin. What if what's within is simulated to keep every artery compliant? You know, the whole being as being undead, dead creeks. It's also sad to think the envy still filling us over some horse we knew for less than a week is simulated. Don't you feel better at least? Well, do I have news for you? I suspect the horse is also false, bogus, feigned. Proof, he comes running when we do not call for him. Proof, in one timeline, he and I are doing a lot of simulated things. Get your minds out of the gutter. On holidays, we openly bathe in a man-made heated spring, or rather, he fears the water imbalances on edge half the time he sips, falls in and blips, holds me for responsible, resets. Drink more water, tweets the anti-horse, threatened to annihilate another anti-horse come salt winter, come stone age. So place your bet that advanced civilizations don't always not annihilate themselves. Whoa, let's try this again. Reset. That's for Zoom. Maybe our most real-time line resides in another verb tense, or is hiding in new irregular superlatives. Should we ask for who, whom, whoest? Because why be skinned when you can be skunned? Would you do the honors? My deliberateness says to trust you one simulation to another. Am I wrong? Didn't we see we through fire, windmill, heated floors? Were we not a woman waving a white handkerchief, one if by land, skull and bones, tick symmetries and mysterious reset, nil and please? If nothing else, can we all agree hummingbirds win most fabulous simulations, even if they are the secret guards, and their tears the antivirus software injecting all those broken one and zeros into our hearts. And surely in one timeline, they are the god themselves, the superlative whoist of engineers, who've made mincemeat of asteroids and atomic timewares. It's too bad that all our timelines are inherently self-destructive. Proof, we watched the same video of a hummingbird snoring for hours, still sitting in a nurse's chair, and not a step closer to what life outside of human reach desires. I'm okay with that. The horse is calling, and I'm running my hands through his mane, unable to explain where and when this comfort, this crisis took root. How did we meet? Was it too by sea? I can't remember when we did not cheat life with a horse, when all timelines were a real and even field in which the hummingbird drank our blood straight from the creek. Thank you.
So I don't know how long our relationship with Manny has been going on, but I think since the beginning of the bookstore. So 12 years and counting, and it is such a joy to have Emanuel Xavier back with us. Emanuel Xavier is author of the poetry books Peer Queen, Americano, If Jesus Were Gay, Nefarious Radiance, Selected Poems of Emanuel Xavier, and Lovely Child. He is recipient of a New York City Council citation and a Gay City Impact Award for his many contributions to NYC arts culture. His books have been finalists for International Latino Book Awards and Lambda Literary Awards, and his work has appeared in Latino Poetry, the Library of America Anthology, Poetry, A Gathering of the Tribes, Hanging Loose Press, Best American Poetry, and elsewhere. He is on the board of the publishing Triangle, www.emanuelxavier.org. Please give it up.
Thank you. So great to be here and among such great poets and such a beautiful day. So I wasn't going to open up with this poem, but I'm going to because a year ago today, lost a man that called my stepfather. My mom and him weren't married, but he was in my life since I was like 5 years old. And it was kind of a volatile relationship. But this poem's for him, called Stepfather. He forgets that he used to call me mariconcito, that I harbored years of hatred toward him while hoping to find my real father. My childhood memories of him reminding me I was my mother's son, not his. I tried to poison him once and scattered sharp nails inside the shoes in his closet. By the time one of his sons died of AIDS, I was already lost in contempt for the man I blamed for everything. There was a time I was in love and he met my boyfriend. Now, he forgets to go to the bathroom or where he is. I help him walk slowly outdoors to step outside the prison cell that is a tiny apartment with no windows in which I grew up abused by both of them. He barely understands. His fate has been torture. I know that I cannot be his savior. I used to pray for him to die, but here he is slowly fading. In his eyes, I see that he learned to love me and wishes he could take it all back. He is unable to recall those drunken nights and hateful words. I should do the same. I left a long time ago, but he still remains haunted by the little boy who wanted to belong. Like him, I want to forget that we made mistakes and caused so much pain. I need for both of us to remember how he taught me how to ride a bike and how to swim and told me better late than never that he loved me and was proud of all I had done. I have to help him settle into his favorite chair and let him know that I forgive him. There is a place somewhere where he will call me hijo, and I will know him as my dad. And for any of you who are familiar with my background history, when I was 16, I was kicked out for being gay, and I ended up at the West Side Highway Piers, and my family became the houses, which was popularized by Paris is Burning and Pose. And so when I wrote this poem, I was sitting in our home in Staten Island and thinking about survival and how some of us get to be here when others don't. And this is called Après le feu, which means after the fire. I am safe in our home with my husband, living the life, all new appliances. There's that clip from Paris is Burning when Venus Extravaganza equates prostitution to what women in the suburbs do to get a washer and dryer. I was not trans like her or Angie, but we did what we had to make our coins. I get to still be here today, too old to hustle, shoplift, or risk getting killed. The only mopping I do these days is occasionally on the kitchen floor. In those days, everyone was afraid of dying of AIDS or simply dying. We belonged to houses because most of us were homeless. Our fathers abandoned us because they already had families, and our mothers cast us out as demons or something similar. We all had stories, many forgotten. Our parents were never wrong. It was our fault if we came home bloodied from school or found dead in a cheap hotel room. No one felt bad for us, the family, the cops, the government. We deserved it, that's all. But now children get to choose their gender, be celebrated for coming out, live in fluidity. I survived at the expense of my sisters being sacrificed. I remember the chicken hawks we fought off, the closet cases on the DL, dark alleys, married men with wives at home, cooking dinner, being a dirty little secret. And now I only worry about paying Con Edison, ordering DoorDash, Amazon deliveries. We were criminals, prostitutes, destined for prison or hell. Now I Google my dead friends to see what is said about them, make reservations to go out for ouchy dinners, plan our next vacations. I pay tribute with poems I read to high school students, inmates, nostalgic New Yorkers. New generations get crowned and walk away with Anastasia Beverly Hills Cosmetics for being the best at what our girls were once eliminated for. If they were alive today, would they be celebrated or murdered in a world that's still violent towards queer and trans people? There are essays and articles about how we lived. I tell my spouse stories as we dine somewhere safe and welcoming. I sleep like the child I never really got to be, dream for all our angels who never had this moment. So I've read this poem several times, and I have to think back to why I wrote it in the first place. And it was because, I was never fond of the word Hispanic. And back in the day, we were Latino or Latina or even, the little asterisk. And then Latinx became popular, and it took me a while to come to the word and accept it and own it and be part of it. Now the new thing is Latine. So it's kind of like, our community is so diverse and yet so divided by like how we identify or how we, call ourselves. So this is called Latinxes. Latinx is something between Latino and Latina, reclaiming how we define hombres sitting in front of lit mirrors with a table full of cosmetics and mujeres with skin fades and ace bandaged down breasts. Something like drag queens a la escuelita and butches a café con leche, like your cool tío that teaches you how to death drop and titi with a mustache. Something like your primo that mysteriously disappeared from the family and is never spoken about. Somewhere between when did you come into this country and brown babies in hospital delivery rooms, growing up in a country where we are told to go back to wherever we came from. Somewhere between being oppressed by whitewashed politicians that come from families that look like us and our bodies outlined with white chalk on sidewalks when we are killed. Check boxes without nuance. Something between J-Lo and Jenny from the block, Rita Hayworth and Rita Moreno, migrating across rivers and spending all your money on airfare. Something between Vaporub and Brujeria, appreciating art by Goya and Trump-loving Goya products from Spain. Taco Tuesdays and the waitstaff and cooks at Italian restaurants. Children in cages and kids bus to schools where they are called spics. Teens turn into gangs for brotherhood, sisterhood, and in the hood, maricones getting gay bash. Alcoholism and Corona, tequila, margaritas, mezcal, somewhere between a quinceañera and a sweet 16, celebrating Cinco de Mayo and clutching your purse as brown boys walk by. Fetishizing Latin lovers and sex trafficking girls who speak Spanish, getting displaced by gentrification, and they're taking over our neighborhoods. Somewhere between desirable and undesirable, being unwanted no matter what letter closes us out, an O, an A, an X, an E. Somewhere between Vanna White and Wanna Buy a Vowel. Somewhere between your English is so good and speaking Spanglish. Somewhere between the right to live the American dream and being a welfare queen. Somewhere between gracias to the academy and filling up our prisons. Somewhere between El Pueblo Unido jamás será vencido and we're here, we're queer, get used to it. Somewhere between Dia de los Muertos and painting your face white to symbolize death. Somewhere between you have the right to remain silent and silence equals death. Somewhere between telenovelas and the new One Day at a Time. Somewhere between Richie Valens and Cardi B. Gender fluid like Walter Mercado and Demi Lovato. Somewhere between Lady Bunny's favorite snacks and Bad Bunny. Something like we were here on this land first and X marks the damn spot. And this is the newer poem that I wrote. It was published in a book called Poets for Harris. Elections coming up on Tuesday. So I feel compelled to share this with you. It's called For Kamala in the Shadow of Peace. Kamala, you carry the dreams of mothers, the fire of daughters, the resilience of our people in every step you take. Your name, a beacon in this time of shadows, a voice for the voiceless, una oportunidad para los olvidados. Kamala, we will vote for you. We will rally behind you. We will remember no hay justicia si no es para todos. The bombs that fall in Palestine shatter our hearts here too, because we are bound uno al otro en esta lucha por la dignidad. Kamala, we cannot look away, nor should we, as the sky bleeds for children wrapped in grief, sus voces perdidas en el humo, hoping for the day when the call to prayer will be answered with love, no con odio. Y la tierra será libre for all who walk upon it. Lead us, but know this, no los dejaremos atrás. For in your rise, we see their rise too. And in your victory, we seek the seeds of reconciliation planted in the ashes de lo que se ha perdido. Peace does not come at the cost of another soul. In your hands, we place our future, hoping you will hold it gently like a dove that has flown too close to the fire, y un sueño of open skies. And I'm going to close it out with this poem. It's the opening of Lovely Child, which came out a year ago, around this time. And ever since, I've had the opportunity to read this poem at like the Publishing Triangle Awards and the Dodge Poetry Festival and a whole bunch of places. So I want to thank all of you for coming out on a beautiful Saturday afternoon to listen to us. And for those watching, this is called Old Pro. I wanted to be a poet. I hustled my way into the literary scene much like I had at the Piers. They watched me dare to speak my truth. They said, good for you talking openly about your experiences as a queer poet of color and being sex positive. They felt what I was doing wasn't poetry. I heard them say I was only popular because I was a whore. I listened to them, gave them permission to use me, let them take pictures of me in my underwear to promote readings. They mispronounced my name and spelled it incorrectly and expected me to show up and perform for them. Bring in the crowd. They slut-shamed me into a cage in a small dark room that smelled like piss. I wanted to be a poet. I wanted to escape my past as a prostitute. Maya Angelou had been a sex worker and became a poet. In bed, I wrote poems. I cuddled with cats. I thought what I was sharing was important. I thought what I was doing was significant. I thought poetry was meant for everyone. I made mistakes in my rebellion. I was almost killed. I believed Audre Lorde that my silence would not protect me. I wrote to be more like a Sado saint. I was inspired by homophobic contemporaries who hated me. I did not attend their workshops or teach alongside them in schools. I watched them become famous. I watched a new generation of poets pretend they did everything first. I watched them innovate and influence as I became invisible again. I used my first and middle name to be remembered. My last name belonged to a deadbeat dad. I tried to write about what I knew at a time when they did not care about houses or underground communities. DEI was not an acronym for diversity, equity, and inclusion, more like disenfranchise, exclude, and ignore. I read in front of large audiences and by myself to a phone camera. I thought I would reach my father this way someday. I thought I would meet the love of my life this way someday. Instead, we met the old school way at a seedy bar. After marching against racism, he jokingly calls me Emanuel. He can recite the lines of my better known poems. He loves to tell stories. He knows there's only one M in my first name. We both learned the truth about my father. Now I know his name, where he lives in Florida. He lets me discuss my past. He lets me find the time to read and write. He is my literary award. I am his laureate. Thank you.
Dan Beatty's eighth book, Drag Stripping, was published by the University of Pittsburgh Press in September 2024. Her memoir, American Bastard, won the Red Hen Nonfiction Award. Beatty has worked as a waitress, abortion counselor, and in maximum security prisons. So give her respect.
Wow, those readings were beautiful, really beautiful. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you to the center and thanks to everyone for coming. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I'm really blown away up here. I really am. Okay. So, I thought I would, I'm just going to read just 2 pages, 2 short pages from American Bastard, my memoir. And I was born in a place called Rosalia Asylum. It's an orphanage in Pittsburgh. And I lived there the first year of my life or more, I'm not sure exactly. I have a lot of epigraphs in this book, which I sort of think of as quotes from my family of strangers. This first one is from me. When I was young, I was a comet with an unending shimmering tail, and I flew over the brokenness that was my life. I didn't know until I was 12 that we carried other bodies inside us, not babies, but bodies of blood that speak to us in Platonic languages of pith and serum. And the first section of this is called Red Dress, and it begins with an epigraph by Wanda Coleman, who I love, who is amazing, was amazing, and is amazing. This is Wanda Coleman. I stole it back because it was mine from the get-go. All shook up, a rumble mama burped, and there I was. Take these rhythms as evidence, my splendid rock and roll. This is called After the Tearing and Rolling. This is what I refer to as imagined memory, partially recurring nightmare. After the tearing and rolling, you're an infant somewhere in a crib, in a room full of cribs. Someone is taking care of you. You don't know who. Who is the person who picks you up? Is it a woman? Is it a nun? There's no story in sight, no same loving face, blood of my blood face. The smells, the feel of the rolling and tearing are gone. Gone where? No face who has your face, no way of knowing who is who. What hands are these? Why are they different every time? There is no bonding taking place. The story is fractured here and forever after. Then strangers come to gaze at you, touch you, wonder about you. They decide to pluck you out of there and make you theirs. These strangers will take your name away and hide it. The government will cooperate. It will take months and months for this baby trade to be completed, a baby in exchange for money. Meanwhile, someone is feeding you. Is it a kind person? What do they smell like? You will never know these hands again. You will be taken to a strange place. People will start calling you the lucky one, the chosen baby. No one sees that your story is gone, that you're being handed off like a football. From now on, everyone will pretend that your first story never existed. They will act and want you to act as if you are one of them. Their blood, their faces, their world. You know that to survive, you will have to do this. You will have to pass. But your new mother has dark hair and brown eyes. Your father has dark hair. Their noses are not like yours. Your white blonde hair shines sickly like the odd light in a bad painting. Later, you look at your cousins. They have beautiful long eyelashes, all of them the same. You value how others resemble others. You long for it. In first grade, you refuse to make a family tree. Your parents and teacher suggest you make one based on your new family. You refuse. So I have some poems that sort of continues some of this. I found out my name when I was in my mid-30s, and I hate my name. I was like looking for it, and then I hate it. So my name is Patrice, which, you know, I cannot be a Patrice. No, doesn't work. So my name's Jan. So this is called The Body's River. I was born for betrayal. When my mother left me in the orphanage, I invented love with strangers. And if it wasn't there, I made it be there until the crash, the revelation. They say blues is 3 chords and the truth, and poetry is long line lies and a deep dive into the body's costly river. Drag. They say I have attachment disorder. From years in the orphanage, I say I'm attached to dirt, to the grit of stones, pulverized metal, From the slag heap, I learned touch from air. I fashioned love from strangers. Your families make no sense to me. My mother's the four-barrel of a 409. My heart's drag stripped from the shredded tires of predators. Go ahead, think of me. Throw the red flag down. I'm one you'd never figured. Dead engine start on a quarter-mile strip. My low jack is the split, the pull away. You back there, me running the distance. So this one is for you, I think. I mean, it's for anyone who's ever been depressed. I wonder if you have. Yes. I have. And I don't know how you could be alive and not have been or be. This is called Psych Intake with Flames. The tests say I have a high IQ, but I have trouble walking around. There are pins in the air and so much pressure. The nurse says, have there been any changes? I've been getting stoned a lot, I say. I mean your address, phone, insurance. I ask my shrink if something serious is wrong with me. I think I'm a horrible person. He says, your diagnosis is that you are superhuman. I tell him I drink Pedialyte and like the texture of baby food. I'm freaking out. I can't even talk and eat at the same time. For years, I've been wearing men's clothes, even though I don't like men. Eli Cattleman gentleman shirts and ropers from King's Saddlery in Wyoming. I think sometimes you just have to say, okay, even if you don't understand. Sometimes let the world of flames speak for itself. Let the radiant life shine. Thanks. So you do know what I'm talking about. Okay, I guess. So, I was a social worker for a number of years and really bad social worker. I would just cry all the time, It's not really recommended, but I couldn't handle it. So I worked in an abortion clinic in Pittsburgh, and it's still open, thank God. Allegheny Women's Center. And so at this time, at any time, but at this time, with this election coming, with this war against women that's been going on forever, but worse. This goes back to a day when a 12-year-old came in the clinic for an abortion. It was a Saturday with her mother. Abortion with gun barrel. The 12-year-old walks thin like a child, her hair alive in vibrating threads in the clinic light. Her mother, my daughter, I give my permission. And the girl cannot be real, or the sky would burn, not bleed like it does in the waiting room of grown women. The mother in the brittle inner office scribbles her name small on the collapsing form. Now move the flying hands of the counselor who becomes the first bird, stripping the sky blank with air leaving. Now she walks back to the maze of illuminated bodies to find a way to make herself dissolve. Not what I wanted for you, not this. In the inner body of the clinic, the divining of this choice, the small name solid, the songbird stuff, the singing continues. I am the counselor. There are cracks in the barrel of the gun. There is aiming, shots of sorrow, shots of light. I am ruinous with light. We are ruinous with making our lives in the procedure room. The 12-year-old opens the leaving door, a bird let loose, no clear note to sing. Song of sorrow and praise as she wears the skin of herself, this idea of skin that she's learning. I'm gonna end with, this title poem, Drag Stripping. This one took me a long time to write. I didn't know how to do it, really. And I just think I needed to grow and grow as a writer, but grow as a person. Anyway, drag stripping. And thank you so much for listening and for having this reading. And to all the other writers, you guys are so good. Drag stripping. I met a stripper on my first visit to the Big West. Sitting on a hill in Marin, I was wearing a black, red, yellow plaid shirt. She wore something more open, loose, sleeveless, her knees to her chest. She was pulling at the brown California grass, throwing it back down. I loved looking at her plain brown hair, falling over the side of her face. I was still wearing women's clothes and shoes, but I made myself a believer that day. Her thick belt, heavy boots, brown eyes, the way she looked at me until I had to look away. She was boy, and I hadn't met anyone like her yet. Look at her blue shirt. She opened me the way she tore at the grass, hard, then threw it. We walked the hills in Marin. I wanted to be like her. I wanted to be her. I couldn't even say what she had, but I wanted it. Our time lasted only weeks, but her face still comes to me. I made myself a queen those days. Inside, I felt the turning diamonds of a life not lived, someone else's life, now mine. Holding the vision heavy as mud, I thought just a push into my own bleeding heart. I could feel the brass screws of the rail's underside, a train running without me. I could feel the spikes and the crosscuts, and I came alive in the fading light and the sky full of birds. And I did, and it was fierce and wild and back to the wall scary. It was off on whenever she was there. I was a blank slate with a hard body. It was everything I wanted. Someone to kiss me nice and slow, then slam me onto the ground's body. It would be years until I knew her, knew that part of me, as I searched secondhand stores for men's clothing, men's size 7 shoes, looking for the boy, man in me. I don't believe in salvation, but look at her body stripping, jerking to one side, head bent, hair covers her face, breasts large and moving, her thickness, wet with boy sweat between her legs, a strip shot across a pitch black stage, flash of a woman running her show. However she wants you, she can have you. Half of a whole body stripping for you, the body divided against itself in beauty. I made myself a man watching her. The strip shot breaks apart into millions of shot back stars, cutting the night apart in her cross-cut body, hard and lovely. Some people say half isn't anything, but it will drive an ocean back to the center. She'll take your money and you'll thank her in the cage of your body, drowning in the stripping, loving the shot back body, dear ghost of everything you wanted. Jerking you into pleasure, jerking you into your own story with a strip shot of ammo to the vulva, triangle of light, triangle of her, the wrapper, 3 sides of lust, the fuck field, the 4th eye. I saw the future in her body, but I didn't know my questions. All that came out of my mouth were birds. Thank you.
So I just want to say, you all have wrecked me, but uplifted me, and I'm just thankful that you have shared your voices and your passion to the lineage of voices that have come 12 years and counting. So thank you. Ruben Quesada is the editor of the award-winning anthology, Latinx Poetics, Essays on the Art of Poetry. His poetry and criticism appear in the New York Times Magazine, Best American Poetry, Lambda Literary Review, Harvard Review, and elsewhere. He has served as poetry editor for AGNI, Poet Lore, Pleiades, Tab Journal, and as a poetry blogger for the Kenyon Review and Plowshares. He currently teaches as affiliate faculty in the MFA in Creative Writing program at Antioch University, Los Angeles. Please welcome Ruben.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm so excited and thrilled to be here with all of you. I've known about this bookstore since it started, and so it's very exciting to be here. The three previous readers I've known for at least a decade, and many of which I've only seen for the second time in person. So it's nice to be in the same room with everyone. This is my new book. It just came out. It was written over the past several years, and I'm going to start with a poem that was really inspired by a word. I live in Chicago, and there's a famous writer that lives there, a fiction writer, who was holding a literary spelling word contest thing. And I didn't get this word. I should say I was given this word, but I didn't get it right. And so I wrote a poem about it. This is called I Was a Boy. As a boy, I was unbearably uncomfortable about my body. And the men my mother dated gave me erections in the bathroom as I thought of them under the hiss of the shower to drown out the catcalls from boys at school who threatened to kill me every afternoon. I have tried to avoid blaming myself for being called a faggot for most of my life. I could not escape it, but those days have gone like the gospel of Anita Bryant, who wanted to drown a faggot rebellion like Stonewall in the summer of 1969. Once I was a man who curated mediocrity, like the time I misspelled peniophobia to conceal my fear of having spent my life penniless, undressing only in the dark. Peniophobia is the fear of being penniless, of being broke.
Use it in a sentence.
Oh, goodness. There's a lot of drug use in this poem, my own and other people. And so I was talking with Jan about this recently, like I'm just drawn to these guys. So this is about a time when I lived in Texas. That's where I went to school. And I dated somebody who turned out to be a heroin addict. This is decomposition. In this blood that haunts my skin, in the folds of my brain are burrowed the harrowed words to describe you. Bleak, cursed. And when the universe was young, it possessed the means to give you breath, to deliver you here for me. On this last day, you'd stumbled half alive onto the drawn curtain in the corner of your room. We watched ghostly orbs of light one last time drifting in like laughter. An ice cream truck's siren song shook you back to life from the hunger for heroin. Outside, children passed. Photographs browned like honey from years of smoke covering the walls. I watched you from your bed, where so many worlds undressed beneath the sap-like weight of phosphorus. Could the periodic table offer much more? Already, you were sulfur, even gold. Read a really poem. This is called With a Line by Paul Monette. On the night we met, I smoked a pack of Camels on the porch with you. Many summers ago, we drank iced tea by the pool, swam beneath a tantrum of cicadas. Today, while you were at work, I learned another way to leave you. I did the laundry, took a Xanax, and folded a syringe and tourniquet into a drawer. I'll read one more Texas poem. This is in Lubbock, Texas. If you've never been to Lubbock, I don't know if you should. I went to school there. In Lubbock, Texas. There's a park with dips and mounds of crabgrass streaming into patches of rust-colored dirt where you ride your horse. It's always hot in Texas. Even in winter, the snow doesn't stay for more than a night or two. Nobody ever wants to stay in Lubbock. I mean, no one ever wants to be there with its mediocre produce and vacant sidewalks, worn and cracked. Nobody bothers to walk anymore. That's what pickup trucks are for. You drive 2 minutes to the store and back. There's a song that says, happiness is Lubbock in the rearview mirror. Bless Mac Davis. Bless Buddy Holly. Here, in the dark, the branches brush against the glass, always watching from above. I have no idea what a horse is like. Of course, I've seen them on television as a child. I watched The Lone Ranger and Mr. Ed. For a long time, I believed animals could talk. I have never known a horse, but I've always talked to my pets. My snow-colored parakeet named Frosty sang to me when I spoke to him. I mimicked, learning to conjure the spirit of his music in my mouth. But how does one speak horse? I've read that a horse's ear is as delicate as the skin of a girl's wrist. Their buttonhole dark eyes are a storm that never settles, looking into you as it breaks the earth with only a whisper. I'm trying to read all my queer poems. Why not, right? I love it. I'm gonna do maybe two more queer poems. This is called Shadows. I stand on our lawn when a girl passes swiftly like a shadow. I watch her wait at the corner crosswalk as birds dart into trees. My eyes blur. A car begins to slip across the horizon. Her body flails toward the curb. My mother appears in the crowd. We stand tightly tucked. It's Mary in a dress the color of asphalt. She is the color of skim milk. Months later, Mary's mother is found in the garage with the car running. Before we attend her funeral, the radio announces Rock Hudson is dead. For him, there was no funeral, only a body the color of ash. East of Wyoming, I remember Matthew Shepard after the entombment by Raphael. I should say that painting of the entombment is a painting of Christ being carried by people, his limp body. And that painting was commissioned 500 years ago by a mother who tragically lost her son. The night my father died, I sat on a stool at the Buckhorn, gazing out the window's cool counter seat. Like a funhouse mirror, you appeared. I have a familiar looking face, my father used to say, his wish for me to blend in. Late after an argument, I fled and was found bound to a prairie fence after 18 hours. My body is like a sock in the wind in a field just a mile from here. My face blooms velvety and light like a lamb's ear. My ears frozen with blood. A medley of ants shuffles away. My body is rich with the sour smell of urine on my head like a crown of daffodils. And I'd like to close with a poem that I write a lot about art. But I'd like to close with this poem. It's after a painting by Marc Chagall. This is called Angels of Paradise. Come with me. Let me show you the blue field of light that soothes aching feet. Lie on waves of lavender growing beneath us. This is paradise. Your tongue tastes air scented with pumpkin and rosemary. Rose is rosebud, budding bend and smell lingers like sap. The magic of daylight will warm you and cover you in its golden embrace. A marsh marigold folding into you. You're covered in a glaze. Gaze into my eyes, gaze into these honey-colored creatures. It is time to find a place of rest. Soon the dark will come and shake you into the orchard of undress. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, everyone. We have books by all four poets at the back, and thank you so much for coming.